Mrs. M. Priyadarshini, ME MBA, is doing PhD, is currently working as teaching fellow in the Department of IST, Anna University, Chennai. She completed a Master's in Software Engineering from Anna University. She has about 10 years of experience in handling courses for UG and PG. She was serving as Technical Evangelist for Corporate over 4 years in Java Enterprise Technologies, Software Engineering, Databases, AWT, and Design Patterns. She is proficient in handling IT projects as well into concept development for enterprises. She is doing a research in the area of web services security. Her other areas of interest include software engineering, AWT, databases, enterprise technologies, and service-oriented architecture. She holds many journal publications and conference proceedings in her research area.
Welcome to UGC lecture series in Computer Science Java Part 22. So in our previous session we had discussed about AWT package, so Abstract Window Toolkit package. So in that package we have seen about the components that are available which are used in order to create GUI. So among those components we have seen basic containers such as frame, window and dialog and so on. So in this session we are going to see about the other components. So your checkbox, checkbox group, choice menu and list, label, text area and text field, and also scroll bar. So first we will see the control or component called checkbox. So as you already know that checkbox is a small box that user can check by clicking with the mouse. So if you want any particular variable to be set to have a value true or false, or that value should be enabled or disabled, in that case we go in for using the checkbox. So clicking on the box causes a check mark to appear. Clicking a second time removes the check mark from the box. So these are handled by event handlers, whereas here we should know how this checkbox is set with a value and how the value that is set will be changed. So whenever I click on that particular checkbox, so it gets enabled, that is it gets ticked, and if it is again selected, so you will remove that, you will get that tick mark to be removed. It means that its value is false. So you can see here a checkbox normally has a label which is passed on to the checkbox constructor as an argument. So here we have a label enable sounds. So this is what the label that is associated with this checkbox. So there is also no argument version of the checkbox constructor. It creates a checkbox without a label. So once we specifically give a label for that particular checkbox, you can refer to that label and you can do certain listener actions. And also if the label is not given, in that case we don't have that particular label to be used, but whereas we can use the name of the checkbox to handle the events. So by default a new checkbox is in off state. So off state means that we have not enabled, or we don't have the tick mark on that particular checkbox. So creating a checkbox that is on requires using a constructor that takes the state as its second argument. So already I have told you that whenever we create a checkbox, we give a label name as the parameter. Along with the label name, I can give the value that need to be set on to the checkbox. It may be true. So by default it will be false. So if I want to have a checkbox with a value which is already been ticked, it means that it's a true. Your checkbox value which your checkbox refers is true. So in that case I need to pass that also as the parameter. So I have 5 checkboxes on a particular container. So in that case all the 5 checkboxes could be on or off. They may be in the on state or an off state. So checking one of your checkbox is not going to affect the other checkbox. So your checkbox is an individual component and that component can have any one of the value true or false. But if I want these checkboxes, a set of checkboxes to act together, so any one of those combination of checkboxes to be selected. So, in case for example, if we sex we have male or female. So, any one of them could be on at a particular point of time. So, in that case what we do is we formulate a checkbox group instead of having a checkbox. So, checkbox group is a collection of checkboxes in which only one box can be checked at a time. So, here you can see there are 3 labels, and among the 3 labels only one particular checkbox label could be enabled. So, checkboxes that are related in this way are often referred to as radio button. So, normally we name this as radio button. So, any one of that particular checkboxes which come under the group could be true and all the others should be false. So, checkboxes that belong to a group often have a different appearance than the individual checkboxes. So, under Windows, the boxes in the group are round instead of square. So, in your Windows environment, we don't have representation in form of square. Normally, when for checkbox, we have a square representation, whereas in case of your checkbox group, whenever it's a radio button, it will be in form of circle. So, the first step in creating a group of checkboxes is to create a checkbox group object. So, since it is a group of checkboxes, first we need to create a group, and then we try to add the checkboxes under a particular group. So, you can see here checkbox group, the group name is equal to new checkbox group. So, I am creating a group. So, for this group I can keep on adding my checkboxes. So, the next step is to create the checkboxes, supplying the checkboxes group object as a second argument to the checkbox constructor. So, you can see that I have created a checkbox, rock box. Here we have new checkbox. So, this is the label, and then I am specifying the particular group, checkbox group. So, in one particular container, I may have 2 or 3 groups as such. So, I can formulate 2 or 3 groups, and each group could be given a name, and then there could be many checkboxes which could be coordinated as one group. So, if I say it as a group, then only one among the group could be true. So, you can see here the value is set to be true, and next I have another checkbox which is added to the same group, the value is set to be false. Here I should set only one to be true and all the other to be false. So, next is choice menu. So, normally we name this as combo box. So, a choice menu or pop-up menu displays one of the several items. So, normally we will have this within drop down. So, whenever I have a list of values, I can drop down and select one among them. When the user presses on the arrow button with the mouse, the full list of choice pop-ups. So, I need to add the elements. So, I have many elements which need to be added in this choice menu. You can see here, creating a choice menu requires 2 steps. The first step is to create a choice object. So, first I am creating a choice object, and then second step is to add menu items using the add method. So, in choice menu I have an add method. So, in this method I can keep on adding the components. So, here this is a string. So, add method is available in the container as well as in the component. So, we have seen that what are all the various methods that is available in the containers and what are all the methods that are available in the components. So, here I can add a set of strings onto this choice menu. So, the order in which the items are added determines the order in which they'll appear on the menu. So, as and when I keep on adding the elements, that gets added at the end of the particular choice menu. So, I cannot reorder those values, I can only append that particular value to the list. So, it means that a list of values I am adding that inside a choice menu. Here only one particular value could be selected at one point of time. So, if I have to choose multiple values, then I cannot use choice menu. So, choice menu is meant only for choosing one of the value among the values that is added in the menu. So, next is label. So, label is a rectangular area containing a text string. So, you can see that. So, whenever I need to intimate something to the user, whenever I need to specify something to the user, normally I use label in order to intimate some information. So, normally this will be in form of string. So, what we do is we try to give a label. So, if for example, I have a text box, so I need to label that particular text box and say that this is the text box which is going to hold a particular value. So, a label has no border around it, the user sees nothing but the text. So, labels are often placed next to other components to indicate their meaning or function. So, this is what I told you. So, this will always be attached with some particular other component in order to specify what is the purpose of that component. So, for example, I have a frame. On the frame normally I will have the I have a common label which specifies what is the purpose of that particular frame. So, the user can't change a label's text. There are no events defined for labels. So, here we are going to use labels only for intimating something. We are not going to do any process with respect to label. So, we do not have any listeners which are needed in which are events that are fired and listeners for your label. So, label is to intimate some information to the user. So, in that case I need not specifically give any particular event or action to that particular label. So, one of the label constructors take a single argument, the text to be displayed within the label. So, we have label, your label name, you are creating you are constructing a label and just we are giving the string which need to be displayed for the label. We have already seen that in case of your choice checkbox. So, we have a label and along with the label we have the checkbox control. So, by default the text is left justified within the label. So, whenever I create a label, it will be the string what you give as the value to the parameter of the constructor will be left aligned. So, the desired alignment can be passed as a second argument to the constructor. So, if I need my label to be placed in the center or to my right, so in that case I need to specify the value which I need to align. So, you can see here we have possible values, that is label.center. I can put my value at the left or at the right. So, these are variables that are available in the label class. So, you can see that the second parameter we provide is nothing but the value which is going to specify which type of alignment need to be done with respect to the value that you show on the or display on the label. So, the getText method returns the text of the label. So, if I need to access a value that is given in the label, just I can get it using the method called getText. So, similarly the setText method can change the text of the label. So, I can change the label text by using this particular method. So, already we have seen about choice menu. So, in case of choice menu, what I can do is I can select only one particular value at a point of time. Even though I have n number of values, I can only choose one and I can do some operation based on that, or else I can use that for a particular purpose. So, whereas in case of list, if I want to choose multiple elements from a given list of values, so in that case I use the component called list. So, you can see that list is a rectangle that contains a series of items. So, the user can choose an item by clicking on it. So, I can use control and then I can choose more than one value on the particular list. So, the list can return n number of values. So, if not all the list items are visible, if you are not able to see all the list item, a scroll bar that appears to the right of the list. So, normally the scroll bar is added with your list control. So, if your number of elements is more, so then I can make that particular scroll bar to appear. So, creating a list is similar to creating a choice menu. The first step is to create a list object. So, I am creating a list. So, here whenever I try to create a list, by default 4 items will be visible at a time. So, I can view 4 items that is added in the list. So, the number of visible items can be specified if desired. So, if I need to specify 10 elements at one particular point of time, so then I can use particular n, that is the number of values that items that need to be displayed on the list when we view that particular list could be given as the parameter to the constructor of the list. So, once the list has been created, the add method is used to add items to it. So, similar to that of your choice menu, you can keep on adding your elements to the list. So, a scroll bar is a sliding bar. So, a scroll bar can be either horizontal or vertical. So, if I have a particular component and then if I need to have n number of values in that particular component, then in that case scroll bar gets automatically included in my control, as you saw in case of list. So, if I want to associate a particular scroll bar, and then so for example, you can say that I have a particular range of values. So, I want to specify a range of values. So, in that case I can place a scroll bar and give the minimum value and the maximum value, and then I try to give various values based on the movement of my scroll bar. So, you can see that each scroll bar, whenever I create a scroll bar, each scroll bar represents a number chosen from a range of integers. So, such as 0 to 100 or 32 to 212. So, the width of the sliding portion of the scroll bar, that is the scroll box or the bubble. So, normally you can see here. So, this is nothing but your bubble. So, here this is the your initial button, and then this is your final button. So, this will lead you to the end of the list, and then this will lead you to the initial position of the list, whereas this gives you the movement between your starting to end point. So, now we will have a short break, and then we will continue with the scroll bar and other components that is available in the AWT package. Welcome back. We will continue with scroll bar component and then all the other components that is available in AWT package. So, as already said, each scroll bar represents a number which is going to be a range of integers. So, the width of the sliding portion of the scroll bar, that is your scroll box or your bubble, must be at least 1. So, measured in the scroll bar's own unit, not in pixels, but it can be wider if desired. So, already you know that you would have used scroll bars. So, whenever I have very less number of items in the content, so in that case, whenever it is attached, so for example, I have a page, in the page I have attached my scroll bar. So, you can see that whenever the contents of the page gets increased, my scroll bar's bubble, that is your scroll box, gets decreased. So, whenever the contents is very less, your scroll box size gets increased. Whereas here, if I want to see visually my scroll box, so in that case, minimum the value that I need to set is 1. At least there should be 1 value that is set. So, in order to visually see your scroll box, and the size of it could be increased as if based on the user's requirements. So, the largest value that the user can select as the maximum value of the scroll bar's range minus the width of the scroll box. So, if the scroll bar has a range from 0 to 100 and the scroll box has a width of 10, then the largest value that the user can select is 100 minus 10, that is 90. So, it means that whenever I am trying to move my scroll box within my scroll bar, so in that case, the value which I need to choose will be taken from the, so for example, I am at the end of my scroll bar, so then I have to take the final value minus the scroll bar size. So, if I am in the middle, so in that case, I have to take the value which your scroll bar represents minus the value of my scroll bar width. So, ways for the user to change the values of the scroll bar. So, drag the scroll box to different positions. So, I can drag the scroll box to different positions, and then using that I can change the range that I need to change. So, next is click on the arrow buttons which changes the value by small amount known as unit increment. By default, the unit increment is 1. So, you would have noticed while using your scroll bar that your button, so which will make you to move towards the initial position. So, whenever I click that particular button, so in that case what happens, it will move 1 unit towards your initial value, and if I am moving my down scroll bar down button, so it will make you to move 1 scroll box width to move towards the end of your range of values. So, what is the initial value, what is the final value? So, whenever I try to press the button, so in that case 1 unit will be incremented or 1 unit will be decremented based on the direction of the scroll bar movement. So, click in the area between an arrow button and the scroll box which changes the value by a larger amount known as the block increment. By default, the block increment is 10. So, based on where you click that, the particular range of values gets changed. I mean the value we select gets changed. So, whenever I try to click it on the buttons, I already told that there will be increment of 1. Whereas, if I try to click somewhere in the middle of that particular scroll box and your button, so in that case there will be a larger increment. So, by default it will be 10. So, even through coding you can control this value that gets changed while you try to drag your scroll bar. Scroll bar constructor has we have 5 arguments. So, one is which type of scroll bar it is, and then your values that you need to use, that is your minimum value, your maximum value, and then what is the increment, minimum increment, and then your maximum increment. So, the first argument may be horizontal or vertical. So, this specifies the orientation, whether you have to move horizontally or whether you have to move vertically. So, the 4th and 5th arguments specify the minimum and maximum values of the scroll bar's range. So, as I told you, so this is the range of the scroll bar. So, the second argument is the initial value of the scroll bar, third is the width of the scroll bars. So, next we will move to text area. So, whenever we have only one single string to be specified for a particular data, that is, for example, if I have employee name, so normally we use only one particular text or string with a particular value. So, we have seen that your text value, whatever you are going to give, if it is of very smaller size, normally we choose text field. If it is of larger size, we normally choose text area. So, in cases if you are going to give a paragraph of input, so if you want to give some comment, so in that case the values will be of type multi-line. So, in that case I can use text area. So, I can specify how many number of lines that need to be displayed, whether my horizontal scroll bar or my vertical scroll bar should be available. All these depends on the data that you are going to give on a particular text. So, text, if it is of very less size, so then I can even use text field, but if your text is of very larger size, so then I have to choose text area. So, you can see here text area is capable of displaying multiple lines. So, you can have multiple line of value, you can use enter within your text area. Scroll bars at the bottom and the right side makes it possible for the user to view text that is not otherwise visible. So, if it is not visible, you can just use your scroll bar to make the data visible. So, there are 4 ways to create text area object depending on whether or not the text is to be displayed initially. So, by default what you can do is you will not be having any text that need to be displayed. So, you allow the user to enter the text, or else in some cases if I want to display some information, I take the information from the database or some storage and then I can display that using multi-line. So, in that case my default control itself will have multiple lines of values. So, whether the number of rows and columns is specified. So, whether or not your text need to be displayed initially, whether I want something to be displayed or not, whether I need to specify number of rows. So, if I need to fill in the data, show the text area with filled in data, so in that case I need to specify how many number of rows and how many number of columns at this point of time I need to display to the user. So, here you can see that there is a code. So, here I already told you that you can have multiple lines. So, you can keep on adding the values by pressing enter. So, this is a string, and if this string need to be displayed on a text area, so it means that here I have /n. So, this /n means that it comes to the end. So, this text before /n will be in one particular line and then your new line will be created and this will be entered, the text will be entered in the next line of your text area. So, based on the value that I have it in the string, the number of rows and columns will be fixed. So, here as I told, new line characters are used to separate the lines in the text area. So, the no argument constructor creates an empty text area with a default size. So, this will be normally one single line. To create a non-empty text area, a string containing the desired text is passed on as an argument. So, whatever the content that you have on your text that you have specified, if it is a value only, if I hold only one particular string, then I will have only one particular string that is displayed on your text area, as such your text field. So, here if we have seen that code has multiple lines. So, there will be multiple lines created based on the size of the code. So, automatically the constructor will construct the text area with the required rows and required columns. So, even you can specify the number of rows and columns by your using your constructor. So, in your constructor I can give the rows and then how many number of columns I need to have for the text area. So, it is also possible to specify values for both text and rows and columns. So, there is also a constructor in which I specify a particular value. in which is going to have a string which is of multiple lines. So, in that case, in your previous case, whenever I just only give the text, the rows and columns, number of rows and columns depends on how many number of maximum letters or characters you have on this particular line. So, for example, you can see here, this is the line which has maximum number of characters. So, automatically this will be taken and your particular text will be created, or else your horizontal and vertical, along with horizontal and vertical scroll, it will be created. So, whereas in this case, if you specify the size, so then only the rows and columns of this particular number of characters and this particular number of rows will be constructed. So, a text area can be made editable or not editable by calling set editable method and passing either true or false value. So, text areas are editable by default. A text event occurs when the user changes any of the text in the text area. So, in some cases, the users are not allowed to make any changes to the contents in the text area. So, in that case, I can make this editable property of my particular text area to false, so that nobody can change the contents, just they can view the contents from the text area, but they will not be able to change the contents. So, by default this value will be true, the editable will be true. So, it means that you can edit the contents, whereas if particularly you want some text area to be non-editable, so in that case I can set that to be false. So, the getText method returns the current contents of the text area. GetText returns a single string with new line character marking break between the lines. So, in case if I have, since it is text area, I will have multiple lines. So, in that case there will be /n that will be included whenever I have. So, you have seen. So, in the quote we have /n. So, similarly the contents will be automatically with the /n. So, if I use my getText method and get it in terms of a string. So, I can even set the text to my text area, and even I have a method to append. So, setText method replaces the contents of the text area with a particular text, whereas in case of append method, if already a text is available, I can just append the contents. So, if I want to include some contents, just I can use append and append the contents in my text area, or else if I want to replace the value. So, already I have some text, I want to replace with a new value, so then I have to use setText method. So, next we will have a look on what is text field. So, text field contains a single line of text. So, your text field class has 4 constructors whose arguments specify the contents of the text field and or the number of columns in the text field. So, you can see here we have a constructor without arguments, and then we have a text field with the string that need to be set to that particular text field, and then even I can specify the number of characters that you need to put on the text field, and here you have text and the maximum number of characters that could be accommodated on the text field. So, you can use any one of these constructor and construct the text field accordingly. So, again this also has set editable method. So, I can make this to be disabled by setting the editable value to be false. So, again we have getText method and setText method. So, the methods used for text fields, you will have getText and setText. The similarity here is text area and text field are inherited from the text component. So, only thing is text field does not support append method, whereas your text area supports append method, and both of them are inherited. So, we have seen the component hierarchy that both these text area and text field both are inherited from text component. So, they have more similarity. So, more method to be similar. So, as a summary, in today's session we have seen about the AWT components: checkbox, your checkbox group, choice menu, list, label, your text area, text field and scroll bar. From your session you will be able to answer questions: how to add elements in the checkbox group, you can differentiate choice menu and list, how to disable text components from being edited by the user, what range of values a scroll bar can hold. So, and then we also have menus, which is an important component that is available in your AWT package, and again we are yet to see what do you mean by layout, and then We are also going to see about the event listeners, how all these components are activated, what all the event listeners we have, and so on in your next session. Thank you.